In May of 2015, Minnesota's governor, Mark Dayton, understood that children of low-income families were at a disadvantage when school started.
Minnesota is ranked 50th on a national level when it comes to the achievement gaps between those in poverty and those above the poverty line. Governor and legislators send every child to preschool.
The Minnesota government was debating on how to spend the extra surplus that Minnesota has. Governor Dayton proposed that the money go to making preschool more affordable for all eligible 4-year-olds. Yet, the idea behind this was to close the achievement gap.
However, the bigger issue is not the lack of availability to go to preschool, but how the environment for low-income families can negatively affect a child prior to the age of 4. This can put the child at a disadvantage when beginning and continuing their education.
The problem that we would like to address is children from low-income families are less likely to be prepared for school. We find this to be a problem because low-income families might not give children enough financial or emotional support during development to support education.
The National Center for Children in Poverty shares that 22% of all children live with families below the poverty line. Many of the parents in these families have a job, maybe 2 or 3. These parents are being paid low wages and don't have the most stable employment. Many of the places they work provide little to no benefits, making it hard for families to take 6 days for them or their children. Only making minimum wage and having to live paycheck by paycheck doesn't give families the money to spend on books or learning materials for their children. Having to work multiple jobs to keep their family clothed, fed, and sheltered doesn't give parents time to sit down and spend quality time with their children. It leaves them unable to teach their children skills needed for the future. From the website What Can Parents Do to Help Close the Achievement Gap, we learned that it is important for families to help advance their children's learning at a young age. For families in poverty, reading to their youth 10 minutes every night can be challenging to do because they may have an evening job. Having a consistent house routine can be a challenge due to work schedules, making it so that families aren't around consistently. Parents should also give their children praise for doing something right instead of just taking notice when they do something wrong. Some families can't provide this much attention to their children because they are so worried about finances. For families who can't provide this sort of education at home, like the ones in poverty, children are less likely to be prepared for school in the future.
A child who is successfully prepared for school needs emotional support from their caregivers. The 3 things that are important for the development of a child is linguistic richness, a positive working model of self, and a well-developed executive function. To achieve linguistic richness, a caregiver should be constantly interacting with the child, especially during the first few years of life. Individuals with a low income might not get the opportunity to spend quality time with their child because they are always working. From Beth Bankstead, a working model of self is the inner monologue that we have within ourselves about our worth. It is important to have a caregiver who is involved and that the child can feel like they have some power in the relationship. For example, if a baby cries, a caregiver will respond. This shows the baby that they are worthy. This is developing at a very young age. For families in poverty, parents are so involved in trying to financially support their child that they don't have the emotional strength to cater to the child's every need. The executive function is the management of self-control. This type of development is important for a child to do well in school because it helps a child regulate their emotions, including working memory, reasoning, task flexibility, and problem solving. This is the Wikipedia definition. With families in poverty, children are forced to learn these skills on their own. Their parents are either unavailable or too emotionally drained at the end of the day to teach youth these skills.
Our solution? Early educational programs for children's ages 0 to 5. Minnesota already provides scholarships to children at the poverty level to go to their Head Start program. However, only so many children are taken into this program a year compared to how many children are in poverty. This program also works with children at the preschool age, and as mentioned before, it would be more beneficial to start working with children even earlier. If Minnesota wants to start somewhere to use their surplus, it should be towards more early learning programs like Head Start.
As you can see, the problem isn't the lack of preschool for children in poverty, but how the environment for low-income families can negatively affect a child prior to the age of 4.
If we can use the government surplus for early educational programs, we should be able to better prepare our children who come from low-income families to succeed in school.